Afro-Centric series brings you nothing but culture, diversity, religion, lifestyle, you name it all. Nothing takes you closer to Africa than its own tradition. Today, I do have a wonderful friend of mine. There are two actually, Ukeye and Dami. Ukeye is from Rwanda, she's a mix, and Dami is Nigerian.
Straight up.
Ukeye will have a little to tell us about herself. I will let her do that, and Dami as well. But from the first standpoint, when you look at Ukeye, she looks like a Caucasian. Well, she is not. She is an African, a true-born African. And today we will be talking about race and how it impacts us Africans living in America and the misconception about us living in America as well. So, Ukeye and Dami, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, do you mind telling our viewers a little bit about yourself before we go in, and then Dami as well?
No, I don't. So, just as it pertains to race, I am Rwandan, like you said, and my dad's from upstate New York. He's white, a white dude. And they met in Congo. We lived in Uganda. I was born in Cameroon. We lived in Congo, and I already said that, Kenya, and Uganda. And then we moved here when I was 7.
Girl, you've been everywhere. I don't even know where I have been to in Africa, side Ghana. And Dami, where are you from?
Well, as you can see clearly, my dad is a white dude.
No.
And unfortunately, my mom's just so dark. I came out like this.
Tommy!
Pay no attention. He's Nigerian.
I'm Nigerian. I'm full-fledged, full-blooded Nigerian. Born and raised. I lived there 20 years before I came to the States. So Nigeria.
The Nigerian in the house, Ghana in the house. Honey, give your country a shout out.
Rwanda.
Okay. So today we're talking about race. And I guess with you and from your appearance, if someone should see you, they see you as a Caucasian lady. And there is this political thing going on about race and the white privilege. So you being an African and living in America, what are the downside of it? Do you feel like you're privileged, or do you feel like you're just facing the same issue as I will face or Dami will face?
So I definitely don't think that we have the same issues. I have seen it from a point of view where I have five siblings, and we range from black to, I'm pretty much the lightest one, I think. The most Caucasian looking. So to me, I've seen the side of like how people can be treated really terribly because of their skin, and then I know the flip side because I know those same people. I've met those same people, and they'll treat us differently based off of just our skin tones and dialect and all that stuff.
Correct.
In Africa, we're treated really well, of course. And I've been told many times that if I go there, I can do a lot of good stuff. So that's the thing, like I'm learning to not so feel guilty about it, just embrace it and say, okay, I can't help that my skin is this light, even though it's pretty annoying to see all the benefits I get because it's clearly in my face. You know, there's something I can do with it. So.
Okay. So your mom is black?
Yes.
Correct. So have you witnessed your mom go through racial slur, discrimination, or anything based on her skin tone?
Yes, and specifically because she's African. So I know that I haven't witnessed anybody do anything, but she's told me stories of like one time she was at camping with my dad and kids were throwing rocks at her. When she went to the bathroom, one time she went up to ask someone for directions. They rolled up the window on her. But specifically because she's African, when she was in school, people wouldn't want to be her partner because she has an accent, and so they would take that as which Africans deal with a lot. They take that as a level of education, which is not true at all because she was smarter than all those
people in the classroom. Yeah, I've had that experience before, but then I had it in a workplace. And I worked with a predominantly African American people, and those were the people I didn't expect that from them because we have the same shade of skin tone. But then they picked up on me based on my accent, and my competence was based on my accent. So they felt like I'm less competent because I speak differently. And with Dami, what issue have you been facing? Because I do know as an Black American, and you guys have to pardon me that I have to refer to Black folks as Black Americans and refer to you as an African American because that actually bridges the gap. And I know people do not want to be put into a box, but as an African American and an African living in America, what do you deal with as pertaining to race, and what do you deal with as pertaining to Black Americans?
I don't know. It's different now compared to when I first got to the States in 2009. That was a different time. It wasn't pleasant. It was surprising that I wasn't accepted right away. But just digging into the complexities of things and their background and African Americans, their point of view of Africans, I can understand it. Especially the first few people that I've met, they were 18 years old. You know, they've always been around the same set of people. They've never been outside of their bubble, their comfort group. So it was, at that time, I was pissed. I was like, oh my God, like, what? I'm Black, you're Black, and you don't want to talk to me because I have an accent. But just growing into the culture, understanding their perspective, and then with them growing as well, they start to say, hey, you know, I'm sorry about what happened in freshman year. So everyone just needs to talk when it comes to Blacks in general, because we're always fighting.
Correct.
Not just Blacks and African Americans, I'm talking about Blacks, period. Blacks at home, Yorubas, Igbos, we're always disagreeing. So black people just need to come together and talk.
You did mention that you understand them. Is it an excuse, or you just understand them? Because I feel like there is no excuse for that, because you growing up in Africa, you're really informed, even that considered as a third world country, you know the essence of Google and all that stuff. And they having the most civilized culture here, don't you think they should be a little bit informed aside what is being portrayed on television?
It's easy to say that as an African, you know, we had access to certain things, and they have more access, obviously. However, you have to look at it from, if you're from Africa or you lived in Africa for a number of years, you're looking at it like you're looking up, right?
Correct.
Oh, Black people, oh, Black Americans are this. Like, it's positive to you. You want to come out of your situation and be like them. They're looking like, oh, we're Black, and these are the majority of Black people, and what they're exposed to is negative. So it's like, do I want to associate myself? It's not. I'm not saying that that's the right thing. I'm just saying that from a general point of view, I can understand it. That's all. But if you do, some people do go out there and find knowledge, and they're like, oh, you know, and you interact with other Black Americans that they tell you more about African history that you probably don't even know. And you're like, oh, wow. So you can't just, it's all different people, man. That's all I can say about that. It's all different people. We just need to band together. That's what I'm going to say about that. This wine's really good.
So, and then to you again, in terms of white people and Black people, which demographic or category of people have you felt or have you experienced the most racial stuff from or discrimination from?
Oh my days! Jesus Christ! See question. It's loaded. You load the question.
I think you need more wine on that.
Hold up, let me see. It's different kind of racial tension. It's different kinds of racial tension. When I first got to the States, I still have a lot of white friends, but I got along with a lot of white people right away.
And that's the irony of it.
Yeah, but I have experienced racism from white people on a greater scale than from Black people. From Black people, it's been like petty, like this is like, oh, you sound a certain way.
Correct.
It's just like funny. It's like jokes with African Americans when I first got here, before I started to learn the accent and all that. It was just jokes. But with white people, the racism that I've experienced with white people has been like
glaring in your face.
Yeah.
Because when you say it's a joke, bullying also comes in the form of a joke.
Yeah.
And I have experienced racism from both angles. I'm not sure if it comes from my own people, it's racism or discrimination or marginalization. But either way, when I got here, I was more accepted from white people because I was intriguing to them. And I think I gave them a jail-free card because I pardoned their sense of ignorance because they kept asking me, oh, do I live on trees and stuff like that. So I came up with a joke.
Someone asked my mom, are there trees? Are there trees in Africa? She was like, wait, of all the stereotypes that you could like.
Exactly. So I came up with a joke that my ride to school was the elephant.
My sister did that. She did.
I know. But the major racial stuff that I felt, and I'm a very outspoken person. So
Yeah.
if you shut me down, you're taking my power away from me. Therefore, it makes me timid.
Yeah.
It happened in college when the professor told me I have an accent. Therefore, he's gonna ignore me because he cannot go past me. Yes, and I talk about this all the
That's
time.
That's sad.
And it really hurt. So it made me look at like my environment as to, okay, is this a joke or is it real? But he actually reinforced that. He ignored me in the process. So the whole time I have to withdraw from that class. Yeah. So have you experienced anything, I think, opposed to with you? I know you're an African, you have an accent, not necessarily as mine. So have you experienced anything like drastic or anything at all?
Really, like, I think not to my face. So I've had people, I've had people, you know,
Correct.
so they just feel really comfortable around me. And I nipped that in the bud finally in college when I got my voice.
Yeah.
I just got rid of all my white friends.
Racist.
But I just think, like, I feel like when you talk about who is more racist, just think about what that comes from, and it's ignorance. So who do we know more about? Like, what group of people does everybody in the world know more about than they know about themselves? White people. Everybody knows white people. We all know their culture. We all know how they talk. We all know their racist little quirks. We know them. So when they do something to us, it's not as offensive because it's like, but I knew that was coming. And I know how they are. But when black people do it, we did, like, coming over here, I didn't know about black American culture. So when they made fun of, like, they would laugh in the cafeteria, I always thought about me. Always thought about, so I didn't even hang out with black people in high school. I was so scared. But I think it's just ignorance that just made us be like, okay, well, they're being mean. And then to African, oh, well, they're being stuck up.
Correct.
And white people were like, okay, you pass.
I know. I think we give white people so much excuses because we're more or less like them, considering that we're Africans. And in Africa, we don't have racism. We have class boundaries, pedigree. So we practice that in a different shade. So if a white person does it, it's expected. If a black person does it, it's not like, okay, he's not supposed to do that. So in Africa, yeah, I know with classism and pedigree and stuff like that, would you see a gap between that and racism, or do you consider that as the same thing, being an African?
I would say that they're very tightly bound together. Because when you can't really separate it, because it came, it didn't come from colonialism. I'm sure, you know, there's tribal stuff before that. But the manner of how we do it and the way that it's situated, the governments that we didn't set up, that they set up, are to make anything close to European culture better and anything to African culture or less desirable. So I feel like it's just tied together at this point. Even if there's no white people there, it's still racism because you're still trying to get to that culture.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because now it goes into dating, relationships, and stuff like that. Because I do know most people, most Black Americans that I've had conversations with think, okay, we Africans think we're better than them, therefore we do not integrate ourselves with them or date them. So, this will go to Dami. So Dami, when it comes to you, no, because you're a darker shade and then they consider you more of an African, she will probably be looked over because of
because I'm a real nigga.
Well, they probably refer to you as the field Negro because of the shade.
Just kidding.
But in terms of dating, do you feel like we Africans do not give Black Americans chances in terms of relationship? Do we feel we're better off than them?
A lot of African Americans do voice that opinion that Africans think that we're better than they are, and I understand where they're coming from when they say that because some Africans do. Period. It's
Some
true.
people do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Some Africans do, and if you go online, that's where you actually see it. I used to argue against it, like that's nonsense, right? But when you go online, you're like, oh wow, a lot of people actually believe that. but when it comes to dating, nah, everyone's
Fair
Equal opportunity.
I like the fact that you guys are coming up with words. Yeah. You got it.
Yeah, no.
Ain't gotta say that. No, everyone's integrating.
But even like you can't put just Africans and not dating black people, because my mom doesn't want me to marry anyone that's not Rwandan.
Yeah.
And specifically not from her tribe.
And she married a white man.
Right. Exactly. No, so even when they do that,
they
they still it's like, oh well, you don't want to date black people. My mom doesn't want me to date anyone outside my tribe. So like it's not just me being better than you. We think we're better than everyone.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't, but I feel like it's
I think she does.
No, she doesn't.
I think most of our
But it's like
parents-
familial,
think
like
our
you
parents
want to
do.
be with people
Our
who
parents
are
do,
like,
and I feel like Americans are catching up on that.
I think that's where they got it from.
Yes, because
the
even,
older-
and I always say
It's the
this,
older
'cause
Africans.
after I watched the Black Panther, there were hints on that.
yeah. that's
Because
true.
even when the other guy went to Wakanda and they said he's not one of us, even within our African homes, our parents do tell us not to associate with them, because
cultures, yeah.
when you do, it comes with violence, it comes with aggression and all of that.
Our parents have a very narrow view on other
View.
cultures. It's just what they think they know.
Hmm
That's it.
I know.
That's
But when,
it.
but when they're being dealt, like when they face racism in the face, then they withdraw. Because I feel most of our parents have actually gone through worse experience than we have.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, 100%.
At least we're in the Black Panther age where we're kind of cool now.
Well, it's kind of
And I'm
Cool.
personally upset about that, because I think, to me, I don't want you people to leverage Black Panther as an excuse to embrace us or to embrace the culture. So everybody is going like, oh, Wakanda for real. No, it's not for real, because I feel like even the jokes are very serious, because when we come here, we're in a vulnerable state. So in that moment, we want to feel like accepted. We want to feel like we, in that community, we blend in and we're just equal to them. But then, of course, they refer to us like the African booty scratcher. They're doing sound like that's how we speak for real. But I believe everyone has an accent, regardless to your skin tone. You do have an accent, he has an accent, and they have an accent too. But I feel like the difference is between us, more they are experiencing racism, we experience that in different shade. But then, of course, there is a backstory of we having more opportunities over them. What is your take on that? Because I do know people think, okay, we take all their jobs and all that kind of stuff. But what is your take on that?
Anyone who says people from other immigrants are taking their jobs needs to shut the fuck up. That's it, period.
What do you think is the main reason for that?
Because we all have the same opportunity to be educated. Like, I mean, I understand that. I understand living in the ghetto, because I live in the ghetto. So I understand
Which part of the ghetto?
Not here.
Okay.
But back home. So it's hard to break out, and I understand 100%. However, you still have the resources. It's the only problem is when you live under certain conditions, you start to just take that and you're frustrated and you're just like, screw everything else. So you don't want to better yourself unless you have positive people around you. That's the only thing I think can be done to help people who live in those conditions to come out of that and be more educated. But I think everyone has the same opportunities, man. You can't say people who come from other countries to steal your job. I could have came here and just sat on my ass and not did it.
That's true, but I will say, so just from my perspective, when I think about how people see my name and how it would be very different if I was black. You know, if I wasn't light skinned and I had the name Ukeye, it might be seen as a ghetto name and something that. But because I'm African, I'm exotic. My name is all of a sudden something really cool.
Yeah, that's because of your color as well. I mean, I'm down.
I know, that's what I'm saying,
When I
but-
apply for a job, I'm just down the wall. They already know they expect me to
I know, but
I know, because I paid attention to my job environment and the names and the kind of people, even with a black person, the black American, they only hire Brittany, Chloe,
Exactly.
those white
Right.
names, and those names that are like Tanisha, Shaniqua, like the applications are being tossed around because it's affiliated to ghetto or not being prim and proper kind of situation. And it's awful.
Yeah.
I disagree. I mean, my job.
You did, well, it's
My
different.
job had
But, like,
Sandra, Rachel,
It's-
la la la.
It's
all
not
that.
about your job.
Shout out
It's
to
about
the
in
line.
general. You think in
Are
general?
you stealing my wine?
No.
there is more wine, but actually, I think
He
we'll drink
hasn't
more.
been drinking it.
What? Okay.
So basically, just to sum everything up, so what would you want to tell our viewers on race and the stuff that you deal with, and what would you also want to tell them as to race, and what you want to tell them about your experience, and what we can all come into conclusion to?
You go first. You're the light skinned one.
So is she being privileged for being lighter?
Yeah, I'm giving her the white privilege right now. Plus, you're a woman.
No, let me ask you.
I'll go with
this.
that.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
So no, let's talk about white privilege.
Oh
Okay.
my days.
Do you get those privileges?
Yes.
Yes.
I feel awful.
I mean, I do. I think I have probably even more because they feel like when they're friends with me, it's like an easy black friend, like a diet black friend.
Oh.
Which is why I stopped being friends with white people.
I
That's
never
what
thought
I felt
about
like.
that.
That's what I felt like every time. It would just feel like I would be the one that they would be like, "Oh, look at her dance. I can't dance." But they want to make it feel like, "Oh, yeah, look at her. She's black. She's dancing. I have a black friend. That's her." And I want to be like, "No, no. Like,
Not
don't
even-
feel safe around me, please, please."
Not even.
No. So yeah, but I definitely have privileges,
privileges.
and if I can use them to better anybody else's conditions, that's what I want to do.
Good. What about you, Dami?
What's the question?
Okay. Do you
I have
have an African privilege?
I have so much white privilege. I want to say something to my Nigerian people. I want to say I'm sorry.
Oh God.
This whole podcast, I've been on YouTube. Sorry.
Mhm.
I've done it in the American accent. I forgot.
Right. Oh my goodness.
I'm so
Ask
sorry.
him about that.
I
Why does
forgot.
he use his
I
American
forgot.
accent all
What?
the time?
Yeah.
And use your British one
And
to
it's
explain.
yeah. Well,
Why
why
not?
do
Why
you
not
use
use
your American
American
accent? I understand why you should, but why do you
Yeah,
use
I
American
would-
accent
I
most
would
of the
do
Oh,
time?
words. Oh my god. Because I live in America. It's just easier for people to understand me.
Correct.
But initially, it was just a mechanism to cope. Yeah, it was just a coping mechanism. It was like I can't deal with this shit anymore, so I'm gonna learn. It's a lot of YouTube, man. YouTube lessons. Teach
Wait,
you how to
really?
say- Yeah, teaches you how to say certain words. Oh my god. It's a lot of YouTube, man. It's a lot of YouTube lessons. It teaches you how to say certain words better. Trust me.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
I also did not know that. Well, I don't know how my accent came by, but either way, I'm still sailing through. But it was really wonderful having this conversation and seeing all the privileges and the black, because I do not have an African privilege, but then it happens within the Caucasian field because they think I'm more culturally inclined and all of those stuff.
Wait, there's something called a black privilege?
Yeah, we do
She's
have black
African.
African privilege.
What is
So,
that?
like,
Because-
with white people, they like us better than black people,
Correct.
than black Americans.
Because they feel like we are more disciplined, we have more etiquette and stuff like that, as opposed to like the black folks. And sometimes I do get why black folks do not like us in a sense, because
We get that privilege.
correct. But it's really nice. I hope our viewers could also.
really nice.
Well, yeah, because a white person enjoys their privilege. Why can we also not enjoy our privilege? Even though we're bitter about the fact that our Africans, Black Americans, do not embrace us as we wanted to. Yeah. So.
I want to say to
As long
everybody,
as we're helping other people.
Correct.
to everybody in the audience, today I learned about African privilege. I bet when I say I'm going to borrow me small African privilege. I never experienced that before.
That is a lie. That is a lie.
Don't think that.
So.
Always will.
So we have less time now, and it was really nice. And I want to say thank you so much. And then to my viewers, if you have not yet subscribed to this page, please go ahead and subscribe, like, share, comment. If you have any suggestions, please give us the suggestions, and we will be more than happy to embrace that. So Afro-Centric series brings you nothing but culture, tradition, lifestyle, you name it all. And I said, nothing takes you closer to Africa than its own tradition and people as well. So you enjoy the rest of your day and keep watching.
Smash the like button.
Wait,
Thank you.
Tommy.
Who's that?
Dang it!
You've been gone, it's an empty home. Come on back where you really belong. You are always welcome home, welcome home. You've been kept down for much too long. Stand up, please, and say I am free. Don't forget you are welcome home, welcome home. Come with me on this happy trip back to the promised land.